Hey folks, this is Tolhi and welcome to another game dev stream. We are at the end of a pretty long haul. We have been working on trying to get to a demo for the past 4 weeks, and this is going to be the last stream. Now, we are not going to reach that demo date, and that's fine. The goal of this kind of period was to really use a bunch of time off I had from work, and also to try and make as much progress as we could. And the goal was to try and get to a demo, but if we didn't make it, you know, that's fine. We still made a lot of progress. And I'd like to use this video to kind of review where we've been, and then potentially talk a little bit about next steps and when hopefully we can reach that demo. So without further ado, I think the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to jump into a video from a month and a half ago, from right before we started kind of this big journey. So we're going to pause the background music and we're going to bring up this video here. And I want to just kind of, I haven't looked at this, but I want to look at where we were a month and a half ago. So we still had the intro screen, but we didn't really have saves working at that time. The other big thing I'm noticing here is the UI.
Huh?
So we've set up all the UI to be disabled and actually is turning on by the flag system based off of specific moments in the cutscenes, and we've made cutscenes to reveal each part of the UI slowly. So having this UI on here during that boot screen is one of the first things I notice. This is an older bit of art. It looks really good at first glance, but like, it really is the same bush and tree over and over again, and Drixie's been working really hard to kind of refine the palette. And then we get into this section where we don't even have the floor rendering. We're using the bat, which still looks really good, and we should probably bring the bat back into the game at some point, but right now we're using the slime. And here I'm more showing off the combo point system with the multi-attacks. I guess that's a big thing too, is this version has like a lot of the attacks and stuff based off of movement. Here I'm debugging to end the run. We ripped out this entire screen. This is all gone. And has all been replaced with a lot of rewards on the abilities, gaining experience per actual skill. How much of the skill tree was done? So we started with all 3 abilities. We've now set up a system so that you actually unlock the skills through the tutorial. These were a bunch of default skills. We didn't have the actual order of them unlocked. We still need to do more work on the skill tree. It's not finished, but this was definitely very placeholder. And we've done a fair amount of extra features on that skill tree. And then we could checkpoint back to where we were last and use those skills that we had unlocked to go fight the enemies. This one also had the glitchy animations where the character, when running, would like pop back to idle every other frame. Yeah, and here I'm just more showing off the combo system more than anything else. And I think that's most of it. We're kind of gonna just show, if I remember correctly, some more fighting. But this is really where we left off, or where we started, I should say, when we began this month-long vacation. Yeah, a lot of showing off the combo point stuff, which was kind of where we were focused, was on combat. And I feel like that's, as we'll discuss here in a bit, is the thing that we're missing the most now, is that we left combat in order to kind of go deal with like tutorialization of the UI, cutscenes, map editors, in order to try and solve all those problems, and those were super great, but I definitely feel like combat has fallen behind, and it's probably where we're going to need to spend a fair amount of time, because it just doesn't feel great right now. Okay, and here we're kind of discovering another goddess statue, and otherwise just showing off a little bit of the map before we come to an end here. Okay. And then the end of results screen. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. We're coming back, and I guess we're just coming back in to buy a couple more skill points. Yeah. Okay, let's live play through what we currently have. There's going to be some issues. This is not perfect either. In fact, I still think that there's a lot to be done with the intro kind of cutscenes. But let's take a look at where we're currently at and maybe just kind of contrast a little bit. So, big thing is we do have the save system up and running. That wasn't actually functional in the previous version. But we won't really see that right now because we're going to just do a fresh playthrough. So this cutscene remains mostly unchanged. We did add this little alert in here with the question mark. We did not get a chance to kind of do a pass on the audio with the voice sounds that we got, and we haven't added any to the goddess at all. But the UI, as I called it before, is now hidden and only being shown when needed. And this is where we start to see the real major changes. We have this castle area loaded up. We have a series of different props. These are all set up in 3D space, and they are kind of overlapping. In the previous version, we could just set a single billboard per tile, but now we have the ability to set wall pieces as well as kind of these decal horizontal pieces, which will render out perfectly to look like the tops of the walls. We also have the ability to kind of like layer and place different props in different positions on a tile. So we can have, for example, here, this crate and then another crate on the same piece in behind. That's coming along quite nicely. I'm happy with how that's kind of turned out. Small thing here, but these windows should have shadows disabled. We have that tech. We just haven't written a thing for making it so that is built into the debugger or the importer. We import all our sprites and turn them into props. In fact, this one does have receive shadows and cast shadows turned off. So interesting that this is still receiving some of that shadow information. Okay, so there might be further bugs there. Regardless, I'm still pretty happy with the way the map editor has turned out, and it feels like there's been a lot of improvements, not just in the props, but also like the triggering of these cutscenes. So this cutscene is also driven by an object in the scene, which we'll get into. It's not visible right now, but the placement of trigger points to have dialogue appear as you walk through has been super handy. We have the ability to interact in order to get little dialogue prompts from Hero. We also have the ability to have flags set up, so this says won't budge, but if we come back and look at it again, I should move on. Like, it's kind of having different events triggered off of the same moment, essentially. I'm liking the way these banners are kind of sitting on the walls. All of these props look phenomenal. And this whole zone didn't exist a month ago. Even the concept of this zone was not there. We only thought about adding it as we ran into problems with trying to do the first tutorial run and unlocking your first ability, that we realized we needed to do something kind of separate and different. And that's where this Omni weapon came in and kind of solves a lot of our problems. We have this like cool intro. We can walk up and we could take the artifact, and we just got this in a few hours ago in the previous stream. There's still work here. We realized we need a portrait for that character, but I like the way that this is feeling. We want to have it so that Hero is defeated on the first run here and then sent back to the Goddess Realm to kind of start the game properly, and I feel like that cutscene is achieving that. Here we've got a little bit of placeholder dialogue, but essentially we're going to be given a little bit of an explanation of what just happened. We're handed off the actual clock, and then we can unlock our first starting ability. I'm going to choose Shoot because I think it looks the coolest. We get a little bit of remarking on the Omni weapon. The goddess further explains it and then asks us to head out to the forest. We can access the skill tree stuff. That's something I'd like to lock behind more cutscenes, but we can come here and choose our first checkpoint. I think I might want to make this checkpoint screen not appear if you only have one checkpoint, because it's a little confusing right now. and then we come into the actual forest. Now, I don't think we've shown this because most of this work was done yesterday, but we've now got a full set of props for the forest. Drixie has been working really hard on kind of building out all of these assets. So we have a little area here kind of representing, I think, what I'd like to try and get to in terms of all of the forest rooms. Each of these have like little bits of grass, some of which are in front of Hero's Feet, some of which are behind, and kind of creates this really nice three-dimensional kind of feel to the space. I am missing the fades like we have in the castle in some of these spots, but there's a lot of prop work, as we'll see here, that still needs to be done. So this map has not been fully kind of decked out. It's simply kind of circled with some placeholder designs. And now we've got that first ability from the second cutscene when we return to the Goddess Realm, and we have Shoot, so we can activate that. This Shoot ability didn't exist. We didn't have the ability to do ranged attacks before, but we can now kind of like deal with this first slime. Each time we kill an enemy or hit an enemy, progress will go up on the ability itself until it eventually levels up and you gain access to the skill tree stuff. Again, that's not gated as it should be right now. I guess that's the next part, is we've kind of got to this stage, and this is where we're kind of running into where we need more cutscenes. Drixie did a first pass on this room, not finished, but kind of just getting a rough idea of how we might want to lay this one out. We're supposed to have an enemy in here. I think that got turned off when she was doing some prop placement. And then this is the first room where we kind of start to tutorialize the concept of fully exploring spaces. So we can see here we're at 60%, 75%, and this room is quickly becoming fully revealed. Oh, and we ran into an interesting bug there. So I did increase my time at the very last step. Huh. Okay, so basically the idea is when you fully reveal a room, you gain access to an extra 15 minutes. And so the more rooms you fully reveal, the more time you get per run. So that was interesting because it clicked up and started tallying up to 215, even though the last step we took revealed and gave us that bonus. So we should probably account for that and make it so that the plus 15 steps for revealing happens before we check to see if we should end the run because we're out of time. If we come into here, we can unlock Shoot. There's a bug right now where Bash is being unlocked by default. I think it might be because it has a cost of 0. We can gain 1 strength. Oh, we can't gain 1 strength. We never gained a single skill point from that first run. Because that second enemy was missing. Normally, I would, when testing this, that second enemy was there, but with only having 1 enemy, we didn't gain enough on that first run. But ideally, you should gain enough experience on the first run to gain 1 level with Shoot. And then here, again, we can kind of like attack this enemy. Shoot went all the way up to 100%, and now we will have an extra skill point. So I guess for the sake of kind of keeping the flow of my explanation, I'm going to just debug end us back to the Goddess Realm. So yeah, so we gain a point with Shoot. We can come back into here, and then we should be able to unlock either another ability that we can use, or we could take a stat increase. I'm going to unlock Slash so that we have 2 abilities, and I'm also going to come in here and unlock Bash simply because it has a cost of 0, and we can have all 3 and we can kind of show those off. And then we go back in and we do it again. And so, assuming that this was my true second run, at this point I would have a little bit more time. I'd be able to make it a little bit further. And I might start trying to go for completing other rooms. We'll also find that certain rooms you can't fully complete. Like this one here, it looks like we've revealed everything, but there might be a little bit more hidden off that won't be discovered until later. But this one here, we're at 99%, so we missed probably 1 tile here. I think once the props are in and we can better see where there's the edge of the world, because we want to try and encompass everything around the outer edge with trees or bushes to kind of tell you this is the edge. if you see something like this, that should really be an indication that there's more tiles to be revealed. If there's just a kind of edge off into nowhere. And yeah, I fully revealed that room and I gained a little bit more time on my clock. And then I can come into here. I gain access to some more enemies. I can shoot this one twice. And then follow up with bash. And then the combo point system is operational. It just hasn't come up in the first little bit here because we don't have all our skills. And these enemies are also pretty weak, so you don't need to do a lot of hits to take them out. But if we do the combos, we can take them out in 2 hits even without any stat increases. We only got the 90% reveal on that room. And then here's where we kind of run into the end of the demo. We haven't fully propped this one out, and we want to have another goddess statue here, which will be kind of a checkpoint, and then you'll be able to continue from this point onwards when you start your next run. And that's kind of it. I mean, it feels like we're missing so much. But at the same time, we've made so much progress on the map editor stuff. Like, that took, like, I want to say a week and a half of the 4 weeks I had off. And I definitely don't think it would have been as easy to do if I didn't have all this uninterrupted time without any context switching. Because there was definitely a lot of problems that required a lot of thinking out and figuring out how to properly solve them in a way that I was pretty satisfied with. And at this point, we can kind of just repeat the process over and over again, but there isn't much more to do. And that's why I feel like this isn't quite at the level where I'd call it a demo. It's close to feature complete, but it's just missing some content and some explanation. Like, we didn't tutorialize the unlocking of the skill trees. We didn't tutorialize the gaining of time very well. It happens, but there's not like a conversation with the goddess about it. So there's a lot of those types of small little cutscenes that need to be built. But I think more importantly is combat. I feel like all the enemies alerting as soon as you enter into a room feels a little odd to me. I'd like to maybe do a pass where we have the enemies only alert when you get into a certain range of them. I'd also like to see potentially having the combat have its own music, so if you do get enemies actually in range and they become alerted, you actually would have like the music shift to indicate you're in battle, and maybe there's some sort of like UI change. I don't love always having your action points down here because these indicate how many turns you have until the enemy goes, but if there's no enemies on the screen, it just feels like weird UI to show. Oh, this is debug turned on by default. Yeah, so like we're starting to get into like future debug maps that just aren't built at all. Anyways, I think this is probably a good enough point for me to kind of call it for like a YouTube archive. We'll probably chop this first part of the stream into a video, and at this point I'm just going to continue building. Because as Amorphous is saying in Twitch chat, there's a lot of work, but it's also getting so much closer. And I 100% agree with that statement. I feel like compared to where we were even a month and a half ago, there's so many systems that went from being like, yeah, it functions, to now it's tutorialized, now it's turning on correctly, now it's actually unlocking with proper data. It's really close to being a thing that you can play. It's, you know, it's really just combat. Let's take actually, before we end this kind of segment of kind of review, I want to take a look at where we are on PureRef, because throughout the past month, we've been kind of using PureRef as kind of like a document taking place to kind of keep track of all the work that we wanted to do, whether it was polish or bugs, things that were in progress. And as I started to break down the remaining work that was left here as we come to the end of this period of vacation, I realized that most of it can kind of be all categorized into combat at this point. There's a couple of things like we want to maybe do items being required to unlock certain nodes as well as experience. So you have to get enough experience and have the right type of stone, whether it's a strength stone, a defense stone, and making it so that certain areas have like chests, or make it so enemies can drop those stones, so that there's more of like a collection aspect. As well as there's this idea of like we probably should have options for audio if we're going to put out a demo, as well as controls, because some people want to hit D-pad to go up and down, some people want to hit the joystick on 45-degree angles to move, and I think giving people those options would be also potentially a great way to reduce people's confusion, or immediate like, oh, it doesn't control the way I want, so I'm just gonna not engage with it. But in terms of combat, it's like we have stuff like HP is easy to miss. The animations don't feel impactful enough, although I do think that the bow, the slash, and the mace attacks with bash have felt better having like a weapon appear in Hero's hand, but still not quite there. Especially the not clear when another action can be performed part. We have ideas for that, but not fully fixed. When an enemy becomes alerted, it interrupts your player's turn. Again, if combat was something that happened and you didn't get to see those action points, maybe that wouldn't be as much of a problem. Change your facing to look at the attacker is super small polish, but things that I would like to fix. The UI bar for the action points under the player's feet is not pixel perfect. Again, polish, but it's related to like the combat experience. I'd love to have some sort of like experience representation when these are going up that actually show text, but is that going to get overwhelming to the player? I don't know. We've got to explore it and see what works and what doesn't. Combo points, they're not entirely obvious what's happening, why you're getting extra little red pips under the health bar, why the text is changing color. We're using some sound effects, but I think that there might be better ways of doing it. And also when these pips appear and disappear is not really well built. It kind of happens as immediate in the code, not when the actual attack happens. So there's some timing issues with the UI essentially. There's little things like the player's square highlights red when the enemy attacks, but it doesn't happen when you attack the enemy. We should just be consistent in whatever we choose to do there. I'd like to move the experience amounts into the ability improvements, so potentially as you level up an ability, the amount of experience it gains changes in some way. I don't fully know what this is, but I think that the idea that ability improvements can modify an ability more, and for clarity, an ability improvement is a type of node you can unlock on a skill tree. So the current example is you can get +5 power to an ability, which doesn't increase your character's strength overall, but makes that ability specifically stronger. Change music when battle starts, and then there's a couple of bugs about enemies stacking and the health bars disappearing if you fight enough enemies. The health bars stop showing up, and then we have these skill points in the UI that we're not currently using but might be related to magic. So like this is like the remaining work. There's a couple of things around items and options we didn't get to, and a bunch of work around combat. And then beyond that, it's just little stuff like I'd like to fix up the audio pack. I'd like to do a balancing pass on the sound effects. I'd like to make an arrow projectile, but these are not necessarily even necessary for a demo, which is why some of them got pushed to like post demo. But I think all of this combat stuff needs at least some level of addressment or addressing. Anyways, long and short of it is I think we're probably still a couple weeks away from being able to release something that I would feel comfortable getting feedback on. Because my fear right now is that we release it to folks and they're just going to tell me all the problems that I already know. And it may not give us anything valuable in terms of, actionable feedback that I would want to, change, because it might just be all the stuff I already have in my own head. I want to feel like it's maybe not perfect, but to a point where I would be excited to show someone. And it's just not quite there yet. Because we could make this into a build and release this right now, and you could play through those first few cutscenes and then just, keep fighting slimes over and over again. But I just don't think it's going to be worthwhile. And so instead, we'll just keep moving forward. With the return to work tomorrow, I think that streams will probably slow down, but I don't think they'll stop. We'll probably come back to maybe we'll move into doing like weekend streams, or maybe once a week or something. It'll depend on how, mentally drained I am from real work. But regardless, I think we've made a huge amount of progress in the past 4 weeks, from just the cutscene system in general to getting skills, having individual experience. The save system didn't exist before. We've added the slime enemy. Tutorialization of the UI is a whole massive undertaking that is now functional. We've got a better understanding of how to build maps. We worked for like week 2 and a good chunk of week 3 on walls and map building, and in the past week we've mostly just been kind of cleaning things up and getting all the data in. Just more cutscenes, more tutorials, more enemies, more maps. It's just going to be a lot of that for the next few weeks, with a little bit of feature work around combat, I think. Some exploration into maybe some new features just to try and solve some design problems. Anyways, that's it for the YouTube video. We're going to close it here, but for the stream, we're going to continue. We've got another hour and a half here. Wow, that only took me half an hour to review everything we had done, or to review where we were a month and a half ago, and then talk about everything we've done in the past month and play through the whole game. Crazy. Now, for next steps today, I'd like... These maps need refinement. Drixie did a good job kind of doing a base on this one, but this one needs more props. The previous one I kind of encircled with a bunch of trees and stuff, but that needs a pass as well. So we could do some map building for a while. There's also just general cutscene work, but we just spent 2 hours trying to get that cutscene with the ogre up and running. I don't feel like, fighting that again. I want to think about some of the problems we had there and see if I can come up with some ways to maybe smooth out that experience. Okay, you know what I want to do? Number 1, I'd like to get the actually, let's do Tiny Trials. Is it Tiny Trials? Maybe it's Aged Oak. That's the song we want for the background right now. I want to go into the forest. Let's go 03, this original map. This goddess statue is not functional at this point because we refactored the interact system. We're going to grab this interact and we're going to go over to Forest 01. And in here, we're going to add this interact to the goddess statue. But what was the ability that we were using for this? It wasn't a cutscene, as we had... This was before we kind of built that system. Some dead folders. Oh, was it? It might have just been an ability, because it's not, obviously, I just said it's not a cutscene. We didn't build that system. So was it just a... That's open checkpoint. It doesn't look to be any of these. Oh, it's here. Oh, wow. We wrote a ability for every single one, and it would set a flag. Yeah, that should be a cutscene. Morphus with the hydrate. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, 2 minutes ago, I missed it. After I finished my big spiel. Okay. I don't want to use this. This is weird compared to the way that we now have cutscenes set up. So instead, we're going to come into the cutscene creator. We're going to open this. We're going to change the zone to forest. We're going to name the room 001. We're going to give this a name of checkpoint. We're going to set the default trigger to forest 001 checkpoint. We're going to make it a... should be none because it's going to be an interact cutscene, so it'll be immediate and it will not be repeatable. 0 priority is fine. We will have no... well, maybe we want a dialogue entry from Hero. And I suppose we could have this thing... I don't know. I'm trying to think what Hero says. Like, we're going to interact to activate a checkpoint. Sure. And this will be a medium-sized dialogue that closes itself. So if we hit create sequence, that should generate 2 objects for us, as well as construct the folders. So under forest, there's now an 01 folder, which has checkpoint and checkpoint dialogue, has all of the addressables set up for us. And now we are going to want to have this set a flag the same way the old one was. That's going to be under backend now, set flag. And then we had a series of flags for these, it seemed. I'm going to go... well, let's just take a direct look at the JSON files. JSON's checkpoint design datas. Looks like there's one here for 001. It is not on by default. Okay, so if we set that flag to be active, is that how we did it before? In here, we were setting the flag to active. Yeah, so once the checkpoint is active, then you can use it. Beyond that, we were just doing some menu select sounds. Sure, we can do the same thing. None of this other stuff matters. Yeah, the way we've set up cutscenes feels so much better. The fact that I can just generate a new one and it just exists, and the system now handles like disabling it and only playing it once, etc., etc. It seems really good. Play sound effect. We can try this. I might need something else. I also think we might want to steal the glow from the Omni weapon and actually have the statue glow as well. Okay, so now instead of this being a interact that takes an ability, actually, if we just add a new interact, I think it gets the... oh, it doesn't get the default ability ID. Alright, I think we want to use a interact cutscene because it'll have Hero do a little animation as well, which I like. And then the trigger name for this cutscene was Forest 001 checkpoint. So if we put that in there, and then we'll need to put this under the room. We can give it a display name of activate. That should exist. Now, we're going to want to delete the old props from here completely. We're going to start fresh with a new set of props. And I guess for the time being, let's make sure that we have populated the options. And we're going to want to grab the ID for the goddess statue. I did this for TO1 earlier. It's a bit of a hack. Really, we should have like a shared folder for certain props that will be usable in multiple zones. But for the time being, I'm just going to grab the room decor goddess statue ID. And we're going to add that as a extra option here. And yeah, I think maybe this should be like a list of zones, and one of them could be shared, and then any shared props could be added to the options as well. And now, last thing I might want to do is just clear and regenerate, just to make sure that we have a fresh set of information. Then we can go overhead, and I'm just going to make this section as large as possible. And we're going to start adding trees. So the back of the world will be here, so we can grab all of these ones. Oh, we need to hide the blue ones. And we need to hide the terrain types. Okay, now all of these can be trees. We'll just do a standard kind of round tree 2. And then this can also all be trees. Round tree 2. And then right here, 415 will need to be a Demon Castle Room Decor Goddess statue. And in front of it, I really like these pieces. Drixie has added these little puffs of grass, which I think are phenomenal for just like really breaking up the spaces. No, I don't think we have small trees that we can use here. It's the one thing that I think both me and Drixie are feeling we're missing still a little bit, is like, what does a medium tree look like? Yeah, because these saplings don't quite fit into the world quite yet. They need more work. Try that. I need to go look at the old version of this because I feel like the old version really worked quite well. Oh, we didn't set the dialogue's position. Also, we should mute the game audio if we're going to keep the background music on. In here, we can close this one. Checkpoint, checkpoint dialogue, alignment top center. Maybe bottom center is fine here because we want to show the statue as best we can. And I think no matter the angle you try and interact with it from, you're always going to be below. Yeah, because we're going to put some objects behind. Okay, yeah, I think having it glow or something could be really helpful. But let's check and see if my checkpoint screen is working correctly now. Oh, right, we're going to have to go through a couple of the cutscenes. Debug end here. We're going to get the return cutscene. We're going to pick an ability. Picking an ability, good. Oh, we are not activating that statue. Huh. I was not expecting this to be a huge problem. I thought it would just be a matter of getting it hooked up again. So ITO1 active should be all we need to do. Now, that being said, technically speaking, this was not a statue that we had be activatable when we built the system originally. We only had 00A and 003. If we were to try activating one of the other two checkpoints that I know used to work, do they function in the UI? Is it maybe just a problem with the setup of the new one? We're going to speed up the game. Go through the cutscenes. I still need to write some sort of like scriptable object that like can have a series of flags set to certain initial states so that we can have like essentially a configuration to be like, I want to only have, or I want to have all the tutorial flags and all the initial cutscenes done. The saves work for that okay, but I still think there's a case for a config file, which will be a little bit nicer, or config object. So we're still not seeing any new checkpoints here. Let's slow this down so that I don't have to watch Hero's animation that quickly. And then if we go into the cutscene... No, not cutscene, checkpoint. Select screen? Yeah, this is going to try and get each checkpoint and check to see if it's active. And we should have just set that one to active. So let's see if that's the case. By interacting, that cutscene should have set 00A to active. There we are. We have 4 keys in here, so we have 4 flags. It's hard to tell which one is which. I guess we can bring up the file here. So, negative 377. Yeah. Is the flag we're looking for and expecting to find. Right now we're getting out Deep Forest, which is the first one, which is set to active. Okay, so that'll be set to active, so it should get added here, and it does. Then we're going to come in here again. We're going to check another flag, which is the one we're looking for as well. We're going to try and find that flag. Do we find that flag? We do. It has design data and is currently set to not started. Interesting. Okay. So then we need to check to see if the set flag sequence step did what it was supposed to do. Perhaps we got the name wrong. But I am grabbing the name. Oh, am I grabbing the name? Technically speaking, the string I'm grabbing is the parameter, not the ID name. So we do actually need to go look at the TSV file to see what the actual ID is before it got turned into a hash. Silly mistake. They are different. And that's our problem. So I feel like this is where we waste a lot of our time nowadays. I feel like we set up a lot of these things to be string-based, which is super flexible and super powerful, but then we end up spending like 15 minutes here and there just trying to figure out why something isn't working, when really it's just a very simple flag problem or string issue. And for something like this, it would be relatively straightforward to maybe parse the flag file and find all of the string IDs and then populate this list with that information. That could be a useful thing to do, but it would also bloat the time it takes to load up this UI, and the UI would just run slower and slower over time. So it's would be beneficial, but also would be bad. So the other option is rework the entire thing to not use strings, but that feels like a bit of overkill. Ooh, not what I meant to do. I didn't know you could do that. Was that interesting? This is how I learn half the stuff I've learned in the past 15 years, is just trying to hit the wrong hotkey. So I need to hit U to end the run, but I hit Control U for some reason, and that brought up the undo history, which I was not aware existed. Okay, so we have not tested this. And it is not working fully. Okay. I got the screen up and running yesterday, but I did not check it with 2 entries, which I probably should have done. But it took me like 2 hours. It was just like fighting me at every step. So I was not feeling like continuing to test it. It was like I got it functional with the first and only entry, which was good enough for the time being because we hadn't even gotten to the second goddess statue yet. It is in here. Checkpoint select. So two things. Number one, this list has too much space in it. So in here, why do you have so much room? Oh, because you have a crazy high height. Yeah, you don't need to be nearly as long as you used to be. Probably somewhere closer to 16 would be good. And if they were both set up that way, then we wouldn't have them so far apart, which is good. And then the dot appeared on screen. Okay. Very interesting. So I wrote some code that's supposed to be pulling these out and putting them up here, so that when I exit and come back in, they appear in the right spot rather than having to be parented under the button. But that code's not working. Okay. And then I think I want these to be longer. Probably just jump up to 64 times 4. Nope, that's too much. 64 times 2. Yeah, 128 is probably a good starting point. Or a better starting point. Okay, let's go quickly fix the checkpoint screen a little bit. So in here, we're going to change the... Oh, I guess we didn't need to change anything in here. We need to change the button themselves. So this needs to be 128, so it's a little bit longer. And then it didn't need to have a height here. It just needs a height of 16, which will be better. And then why are you not pulling the location identifier out? That one's a little trickier to me. That's why. Reading the code explains the code. Basically, I wasn't doing it on the object, I was doing it on the actual menu. So the menu kept finding the same component over and over again instead of actually grabbing each one per button. Okay, last time, hopefully, fingers crossed. Activating the statue, not very impactful activation, but we can add more later. Zoom through this. Zoom through this. And then checkpoint screen has us switching between the two different checkpoints. Positioning and like layout I think could be improved here as well. Trixie's called out that it would be nice if this was like bobbing and moving a little bit. Like there's a lot of polish we can do here, but if I hit Forgotten Grove, I do load in here correctly. Perfect. So now there's actually like a level of progression to the game that didn't exist a moment ago. Because with this, now we can actually have it so that you can have a goal of getting to that next statue, and once you unlock the statue, you can progress further in, and we'll need to build more maps, but you'll be able to fight stronger enemies. I don't know if I'm bringing the bat back at this time, though. I think what I'd like to do is maybe make the slime smaller, so we have like a baby version, and then we have like bigger versions of the slime you start running into a little further in. And we also have like a wild boar, but neither I nor Drixie remember where we got to on that. Oh, it looks like it has some animations exported. Did this have itself fully formatted? It did not. It looks like it has an idle for both directions and a run, but it doesn't have an attack, a hit, or a death, so it's missing 3 animations. But this might be a good enemy to go with too. Yeah, we might want to bring this one in. I think this could be a good one for like more, not end game, but like end of forest area. Okay, cool. Well, that's the statue up and running. With the checkpoint screen cleaned up a little bit to have 2 checkpoints. Okay, remaining things I have on my list. Let's transfer them. So I don't have to look at my notebooks. Sure, we can redeem a stretch as well. Where do I want to put this information down to? I'm pretty happy with the balance pass. I do think enemies could use an AI pass as well. There's a ton of content to build. We're not that far off from getting to the demo. Like, if we could just have a couple of more enemies that have slightly more difficult stats and then a few more rooms, I think we could get a lot of value out of what we're currently working with. The main thing is just the combat feels unclear to me. Okay, low-hanging fruit today, though. Low-hanging fruit. So, other things I have written down that I'd like to do. I'm going to actually do this in a separate little window. We need to do a pass on all dialogue. Both grammatic and content-wise. No checkpoint screen if only one checkpoint unlocked. That's an interesting one, but I think I'd like to do that. So it just takes you to the deep forest, and then when you get another checkpoint, it shows the screen. Add props to all forest maps. Max time increase cutscene. Right now you just get 15 more minutes, but I think the first time there should be a cutscene where the goddess comes through and speaks through the watch in the corner to kind of communicate to you, kind of walkie-talkie style a little bit. Explains what's happening. Yeah, so this is kind of just some of the content we need to do, but the thing about most of this is it is getting to be the point where we're not writing features. We're just building stuff. Yeah. I think the only things that I feel like we're kind of missing in terms of being able to do a lot of, well, okay, here's my thought process. So I think that the Goddess Realm is kind of interesting in its current layout. It's pretty basic, but it has like essentially three islands. There's a space where you talk to the goddess, there's a spot where you go to choose which checkpoint you want to load in, and there's a spot where you open up the skill tree and you can level up your skills. I want to have this area here be not accessible to you until after you have leveled up one of your skills. It shouldn't even be like on the third run or fourth run. It could be that you walk around in circles and you don't gain any skills or don't gain any levels, then you shouldn't get this area unlocked. It should be a high priority flagged event that happens once you have at least one skill leveled up. And then this area should come in. But right now, when we walk, we reveal tiles by sight. And we can turn off sight revealing here in this realm so that you can't walk over here. But it feels like a bit of a hack because the way we've been doing that for this area is if we go into the Wisp move, we've just been coming into the movement that we have specifically for the Wisp and just turning off the ability effects for sight so that you just don't look forward and don't reveal tiles. And that feels a bit hacky to me. I think what I'd rather do is, regardless of where the sight is coming from, whether it's the Wisp version of Hero or the actual real version, like or not real, but the human version, the on the world kind of version, wherever that tile sight is coming from, it should have some sort of override that if we mark certain tiles as like non-revealable, that it doesn't get seen, essentially. And I think that would be valuable because we might want to have like hidden paths or areas that unlock through you needing to use items or, you know, certain events that by default you can't just walk over and reveal, but they will just be tiles that will be revealed just through event systems. So we want to have tiles that are resistant to being seen. That shouldn't be too difficult. We have the idea of tiles being able to start revealed. Which basically sets a tile data to start revealed. So it's literally just a bool. So if we just had another one that is like, I don't know, reveal locked seems reasonable to me as well. Maybe that's more clear than reveal resistant. And then we have this be reveal locked. How did it know about that start revealed? Was that just a... There's just a tracker here. I don't love the way this one is done because normally we do it via get component, but for these ones I guess it's fine. Okay, and then we're going to come into here and we're going to look under all the child count get child, which means that if... No, this will need to be wrapped in a if not equal to null in case some maps don't set it. I'm surprised we don't have the same thing here, but I guess we copy and paste most of our maps from previous ones, so every single one has start revealed. Okay. Okay, then we're going to go through each of the children, and we're going to check to see its position, and we're going to get that tile data out, and we're going to set it to reveal locked. Okay. This should be enough for us to be able to add labels, essentially, to specific locations that we want to say, hey, this cannot be revealed normally. And we're going to make these like a red color. These are locked. Okay. And then with these ones being locked, we can leave the other ones as non-locked because once these are revealed, you'll be able to walk over and find the other pieces. And I think there might be a case to be made for maybe locking this area out as well. Because my thought is perhaps the system should be the same. Maybe instead of having the no checkpoint screen if you have only one checkpoint unlocked, maybe we should have it so that island isn't even revealed or revealable until you have 2 checkpoints. But then the question becomes, how do you leave this area before you get your second checkpoint? And my thought is we could have the goddess just send you. It's not my favorite, but we could have it so that if you talk to the goddess while you haven't unlocked the island, she sends you down. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea, but I don't know if I love it. Because then eventually it's like, okay, well now you've unlocked this, and instead of walking over and talking to her and instantly being sent down, now you can be like, oh, I have to walk over here and choose. I don't know. I'm going to think on it, but I still want to implement this system. Whether or not I use it for the checkpoint locking is debatable, but let's raycast this environment. Okay. There's not really a great way to see whether or not that's working, but we'll just continue assuming that the data has been transferred and that those tiles are now labeled as locked. Now we want to go look at the actual tile class here. So when we load, we definitely don't need any of this other stuff. This can be cleaned up now. We have made loading props so much simpler. So when we load, we do a bunch of stuff. We load up all the props. Where do we set start revealed? Is it not even handled by this? Let's go in here and take a look. Where does this get used? Is it used by the board? It is. When the board loads each tile, it adds it to a list of start revealed tiles. Okay. I'm going to say that's more important or more I think start revealed will probably override locked revealed. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's go back a couple of files to here. Do we configure the animations at any point here? We must, right? Does this not have a reference to the animations? It does. Ah, but it doesn't really set in anything inside of it. Huh. Neat. So this is used almost exclusively outside of the tile? Other than checking some functions for it? For the most part, the tile doesn't really care about it. And where the center is, which is handled by part of the revealing objects. Okay, well, we can do tile animation dot reveal. Did I make it private? I made it private. Okay, so in here, lock reveal will be equal to the tile data reveal locked. And so this normally does a tile animation dot reveal for the site stuff. So we need to figure out where we're going to block it. Like where we're going to say, hey, if we're trying to reveal but we're reveal locked, just don't. Let's look at, I made, for that glow effect that happens, we made a reveal tile pattern. How is this revealing? This is using this reveal call, which is direct. But this one is what tile site uses, and it's the only one, but these are internal. So any tile reveal sequence steps or animations use this one. And this one checks to see if tile is revealing, is in progress, or revealed before exiting out. Probably the simplest thing to do is just say any form of revealing is denied if it's reveal locked. And then we can make it so that we reviewed the whole thing, Trixie. I'm going to turn it into a YouTube video later. I don't know if it was the best review, but it's a half an hour of kind of talking about the whole process and kind of showing where we were a month and a half ago and kind of where we're at now. And lamenting a little bit, I think, the lack of being at the full demo, but overall, I think it was a good review, and I'm going to be happy to have it in the future, I think, to review, to go back to myself. Okay, so if this is the way this works, then we're gonna need to have a like remove reveal lock, which we can do. think this might get more elaborate if we ever add like the certain tiles that need certain items to be seen, or like something like that. But for the time being, let's just assume there's one set of states and it's just locked. And then we can just remove that lock. Trixie, don't be mean. Why are you being mean? Don't be mean. I'm not even gonna repeat. Alright, remove reveal lock. So if this is the case, how do we want this to work? I think it's going to be part of like a reveal sequence step tile. So when we reveal a tile, I think we have some sort of like override in here. You know what, as I'm writing this, I'm realizing, why would there ever be a case where we would write a thing to reveal a tile, but not want to remove the lock? Because this is not used as part of the ability system. This is only used, because yeah, it's not referenced anywhere in code. So it would only be used as part of cutscenes. So anytime we would reveal a tile, we remove the reveal lock. And I think that should also be true for any reveal patterns. So if this right now is only working with the circle effect, but if we're going to reveal a tile here, I think we do the same thing. We just remove any reveal locks that might be associated with this tile animation. There was another version of this, I think. Let's go Solution Explorer. Yeah, there's a reveal tiles. Which is missing some other logic. We have this concept of immediate versus non-immediate now. Which by default, immediate is false. What could possibly go wrong? Also, is it also missing the delay? It is. Okay, better. So now we could write a cutscene that reveals this part of the world and if we just go in here, we won't be able to reveal it just by walking up to it. Well, that didn't work. Oh, you know probably why? Probably because we didn't actually set the game object. Now we'll run the data, it'll get transferred into the tiles. When we load up a scene, it'll check that information, it'll see that it's locked, it'll set it, and then tile sites are not strong enough to actually reveal it. Only a cutscene can reveal it. Perfect. This does mean that the game is essentially broken until we actually write cutscenes to reveal these pieces of information. But I think that's next steps. Yeah. Does this make sure that the revealed objects is active? Yeah, active self. Active in hierarchy is a little safer. That way I can toggle off the whole parent if I want. And it'll still react the way I want. Okay, so we need to now write a cutscene to reveal this area. Amorphous with the hydration. Appreciate it. Why? No one told me that my avatar was off since we raised... When did we do the stretch? 25 minutes? The avatar has been missing for 25 minutes? It's fair. Most people are probably listening, not watching. But oh, it's fine. I can't believe you didn't notice, Trixie. How could you not notice? Okay. Alright, well, so I'm realizing there's another feature we need. Because I said that I want to have this only reveal after you've leveled up a skill. We don't really have a way of tracking that. Okay, let's build the cutscene and then I will worry about the flag system for it later. So we're going to make a new cutscene for the Goddess Realm. So inside of here, we're going to do Goddess Realm return. Name of the sequence will be skill trees unlocked. The trigger name for this will be the name of the zone. So I think we can look here for that. Yep. So when you enter into this zone, you will have a intro sequence. The first return is 998. So this will be, I think, 997. So once you've seen the boot intro and you've seen the first return, this is the next highest priority cutscene that can appear. This is going to be top center. Is that narratively what we're doing? Sure. So the goddess will say, hero, your control over the Omni weapon is growing. You can now increase your stats and unlock new abilities by improving the Omni weapon. Maybe we just say by... You can increase your stats and unlock new abilities. It's maybe implied that we're talking about the Omni weapon here. If you head to the scrying pool, you will be able to reflect on your inner growth. Inner self? You'll be able to reflect on your progress? Words are hard. Okay. This is still stay open, I think. And we won't mention the idea of stat stones because we don't have that implemented yet. We can probably get away with medium-sized dialogue boxes for both of these. Top center, top center. We'll have this one stay open and this one close self. Okay, let's create that sequence. So these two here exist. And then after these things, well, maybe in between actually, we'll do a board reveal tiles. Okay, and then we're going to want to reveal... Are these set up correctly? These are generated correctly. So these are the tiles we want to reveal. We want to reveal 10, 11, 10, 12. And you know what? Maybe we want to do this in 2 groups. We'll do 11, 11, and 11, 12. And then we'll have this be delayed by, I don't know, 0.2 and 0.4. Okay. That might be good enough. That'll at least prevent the game from locking you out of the skill tree entirely. In terms of making it so this only appears after you've leveled up a skill, that will be a little bit trickier. I'm going to need a new type of flag that I've been thinking about for a little while, which is like an event flag, which will count every time a notification happens. And I will need to set up notifications with the correct naming scheme whenever I make a new one of those flags. So for example, I could have a what's funny is you don't even need to get the Omni weapon here, you just need to get back to the Goddess Realm. Same thing here. So if we go back, this should now do this cutscene. Oh, it does need to be a large. Oh, it's failing. Those were not the correct IDs. That's 10-9. Was that not right? Are these IDs still wrong? This was 10-9. Do I have them flipped or something? Okay. We'll have to run it again and just try and see what's going on. I thought I had fixed the naming, but I guess I hadn't. It'd be so handy if those labels were correct. So this one is floor 10-9. This one's 11-9. So, and this one here is 10-10. So then the ones we're looking for is going to be... 9, 9, 9, 10. And then 8, 9, and 8, 10. So somehow I'm getting the naming reversed? Or is it just off by 2? It looks like I'm off by 2. That's so weird. Oh, and we have to go through the whole thing again. We gotta go back through boot screen and see the previous 2 cutscenes. This is again where like some sort of config file to be like, hey, I would like, well, maybe not even, I was thinking we'd want a config file to be like, hey, we want to set the first 2 cutscenes as having been played so we could more easily test this. But like, maybe we want, what we want is actually like a, hey, this is the cutscene we'd like to play regardless of priority. Maybe that's the system we're missing. Oh, can I autosave here actually? Will that load us back up at the right spot? It will. Cool. Let's see that again. Actually, before we do, let's also fix the dialog boxes. So we'll go large, and then I guess the second one will have to be large as well if we're going to stay open. It might be better to do a close. Actually, I'm realizing, because the dialogue closing would help it be more visible to the eye that the tiles are moving. I've noticed this in the past, but if we have the dialog boxes open, your eye tends to stay on the text, opposed to if we close the dialog box, you tend to see stuff happening more. So I think we do want to do close self medium so that you can actually be aware of the cutscene stuff happening. Okay, I was talking a little bit about event flags and then trailed off, I think, but yeah, essentially I want to have the ability to have certain flags that basically just count whenever an event happens. And I don't think that'll be too hard to build, but it will be very nice. It's just for each new type of flag we want to add, it will be a little bit of work, because we'll need to set up some event somewhere to trigger. So like each time you kill an enemy, we should probably track that, but we should also track for each enemy that you've killed, which I think the defeat flags might already be doing, because I was starting to build some quest-based systems a while ago, and I feel like we may have done some initial work on this already. I should take a look at that actually. Yeah, that feels better. Just giving it a little bit of time to read before the dialog box comes up again. We need to do a force rebuild on that dialog prompt. The reflect was starting to collapse into the other pieces of text. That has something to do with Unity's UI systems. Interesting. Do both of these cost 1 pip? No. Why does bash start unlocked if you choose shoot, but doesn't if you choose slash? It's another weird bug. Okay. So we've made it so this area is only accessible after you've unlocked, well, after you've done 3 runs is the current functionality. Let's see if we can add a flag that tracks how many skill points you've gained. We're going to take a look at the defeat flags. How does this one operate? Yeah, I think this does exactly what I want. But it's just too specific. It needs to be generic. Yeah, basically, if the flag is active, it will add an observer for on death. Do we have a removed observer for this? Yeah, if we complete it, we remove the observer. And if we set it to active, we also do that. Okay, so when we load, if it's currently in an active state, we add an observer. So this is specific to death notifications. Oh, and this isn't actually even listening for a secondary parameter to make sure that the death notification is for a specific enemy. We do make it sound that way in the description. But we're not actually looking to make sure that the... Oh no, we do. We make sure the parameter is the matching name. Okay. So, and then we set it to complete if the progression amount equals. Okay. Okay, this is kind of what I wanted to build for the event flags, just a little different. The main change up here is that I don't want to have a flag for tracking stuff. So the way this currently works is it doesn't get set to complete until you reach a certain progression amount. I could have flags operate that way, but I feel like it might be easier to just have a check if amount is greater than a certain value. It's tricky. The main problem is I don't want to have, like, if we have, say, a event for number of runs. Let's say there's an event for the number of runs that you can perform. And we want to have a cutscene for when you've performed 5 runs, 10 runs, and 15 runs. I don't want to have 3 different flags, each listening to the event for on run complete and tracking that. It's just wasteful, and it bloats the kind of notification system that we have. So instead, we should have a single flag that's tracking all of the runs, and then maybe we want a separate flag to check against that kind of main flag. Don't love that either. I'm going to leave it for now. I think there's more thoughts to be had. I thought I could kind of quickly implement it, and the defeat flag is actually close, but I'm just realizing that the way I want to do this, I almost feel like I want to have a tracking system, and maybe that tracking system isn't just built into the flags, because that's going to bloat things. Maybe we need a separate tracking system, and then we can still have event flags that check if we're at a certain amount from the tracking system. I don't know. Not sure. I think there's 2 different systems here, though. And the idea would be that we could set up something like a flag that's like, hey, if you've hit a number of level up skills of 1, basically, once that flag has been set, you could have this cutscene happen, so it doesn't happen too early when you don't actually have any skill points. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so we've kind of have a skill tree unlock cutscene. I feel like that's functional. The thing that we're missing from it is more the idea of like tutorializing the skill tree, which will be something separate, I think. Although the skill tree isn't that complicated, it might not need a full tutorial. I think the UI could be improved. We definitely want to do a UI pass on it to make it more obvious what's going on, I think. I think in no small part because we're missing controls on the bottom right. This all came originally from the Era of Embers project, which had like a kind of centralized control components, but that wasn't brought over. And we probably want to have controls in the bottom right in this screen as well. Okay. I guess we've got 20 minutes left. I'm feeling pretty drained. I think I'm just going to work on some props for the forest. This is just little, like, although we didn't get to the demo by the end of this vacation period, and we're not going to have the full kind of game be playable and get feedback, I do think we're in this really great spot where, like, there's also a lot of like mindless stuff that I've set us up for success on, where it's like, oh, you know what I want to do this evening? Not work on features or building new flag systems. Just kind of want to build maps. And we can just like Lego style play around and build maps now, which is kind of cool. I think I want to do it live. It looks a little better when we're doing it that way. We're going to pull this out. We're going to save. We're going to hit play. Oh, also, I want to set the room to be spawn all so we don't have to walk around to see everything. I'm going to populate options, which looks good. And I'm also going to rename this. We've been kind of trying to rename some of these prefabs to match the rooms, at least a little bit. This is what I'm looking for. We're going to rename this to TO2. Okay. Now, I'm going to make a save to this layout. Actually, not this one. This one. Save layout. Main. And then I think when editing scenes, I just want to have this scene view be like the primary, like, central thing that has like almost all of our information in it. I think we want to just collapse everything down to mostly just the inspector at this point. And then I can add a game view . No, that's not going to work. How do I add a game view to this layout without it completely overriding the whole thing? Maybe it's a side view, side by side. I feel like I've lost so much of my screen space now, though. But if I want to see the map, I kind of need about that much room, I think. Okay, well, how do we want to break this up? Don't think we need to have a tree on every tile. This can probably be more stones. I do, well, could also do some stumps. Don't mind the occasional stump object. I think I kind of want to try bringing a tree forward a little bit. It's going to cut off the play space a bit. But I'm curious to see if we can get away with having a tree in front of this line. It'll add a lot more depth to things as well. This is probably the best we're going to get. And we'll put a medium scrub in front of it. It might be a little too big. Probably a smaller one. Overlapping with this one. So we'll pull this one out and replace it with I don't know. I don't love the color scheming of the stumps. Could also probably change up some of these bits of grass to being something a bit smaller. No, because that... I definitely want it to feel pretty dense here. So even where we have like no trees, I want to add maybe more of these like blue bushes to make it feel really heavy greenery. Now I feel like this bush in the middle is getting lost a little bit. So we might want to swap that to just like some stones. Those are too small to be seen. Am I missing something? Oh no, yeah, those are just really tiny. I was expecting this one. That was what I was looking for. But I think I actually want that to be more to the left. Let's add a set of them as a custom prop. Clear the main ones. And then we can kind of move these a bit more over so that they're more in shadow. And then I might even add a bush to this one to add even more shadow to it. The red is too heavy of an accent piece. That one's too bright for this spot. No, I don't want to hide the kind of medical herby type plant here. That one's too narrow. That just adds a lot more of the same kind of scrubs. Interesting. Maybe what I want to do is actually swap this one for a larger kind of bush, and then maybe I even want it to be you know what, maybe instead we do center so it's closer. Yeah, I think I like that a little more. I do feel like we're losing a bit of the density here though. Like it feels less dense to me and less like a large forested area. Trying to see what speaks to me here with these. Can I walk in front of these or behind these? Where do I walk? We walk on top. That's probably fine. Okay, moving right along, let's try this area. Let's swap one of these to be maybe... a different tree. Oh, I like that. In fact, maybe I want the 96 here at the front. I think I want... yeah, I like these a little bit more. They feel way bigger. Oh, this starts to cut in. I can't put one here. We had built this area in the back that will be part of the later part of the game. So we don't want to go too high. So we can't go to 96s on that section. Which means if we want any of these, they do need to be more in this area. This one, could we go smaller? Maybe we go to a tinier tree in this spot. And could we even lower it? Oh, that didn't work. Oh, I need to make it custom. Sometimes I do that, and I feel like it's a weird thing. It's like, oh, I want to lower the height of this, but it's like, no, it's not there. Just let it be at -5. But bring it back a bit. I don't know how I feel about lowering it down. It feels interesting to see a bit more of the cover there, but if that's the case, it might be just better to do like one of these bush instead, to kind of just fill in the background to make it feel very dense. Probably clear this one. I don't mind that. Let's alternate these a little bit to some different variations, so it doesn't feel like we're just seeing the same round tree over and over again. Can I go to a large one here? I think I can. Okay, cool. And then the next time we'll be able to do some large trees are over here. I'm just going to pencil those in. Cool, that breaks up the kind of sameness of it. Here, what if we did tall scrubs? Oh, I like that. That feels better. It's like a much denser area. And then the density kind of reduces on this side. Okay. And then I might just try adding another kind of big stone. Oh, I forgot about the mossy boulder. Oh, that's what I want back here, I think. I'm going to do it as a custom prop because I want to have full control over the position. But if we go stones, mossy boulder, and then move that back a bit. Kind of like the way that works. Lower it down a little bit. I wonder how it works as a wall. Could we do a wall prop version of that stone? It wasn't designed with that in mind, I don't think. Left wall? Yeah. And then if we go custom, we can drag it back to be behind. And then we'd need to lower it down a little bit as well, I think. But we can give this kind of interesting kind of backdrop of like some rocky kind of moss areas in behind. That's cool. This round tree is still kind of bothering me. Maybe it's supposed to be a rocky stone as well. Yeah, I like that a little bit more. Okay. I think we could break up this one with another stump. They tend to work well on corners. Ooh, it's a very different looking one. I don't mind it though. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe we start to see a transition from more of the kind of scrubs into kind of lighter amounts of greenery. A little bit of the kind of grass in front. No, gets a little too lost. Green on green. That's kind of cool though. I don't mind that. But can we keep it without... Like, because if... I'm wondering if we put anything here, it's going to kind of overlap too much. That one's large leaf. I want to try making this one work, but it needs to be very bright. So it is very bright, so it needs to feel like it's very front with nothing in, like, no trees casting shadows on it for it to make sense to me. So it can be along here. can break this up here a bit with another stone. No, I'm not liking the way that's feeling. Let's try adding... I don't know, something here? No, it's not the flowers. I don't think it's a log. No, not a log. Maybe it's smaller stones we're looking for here? No, that's clipping too much. I feel like we need to break up this consistent green color a little bit, but I'm just not quite sure how to do that. It's got to be some sort of custom prop. I don't think it's a fence here, is not what I want to... I might be able to make that work. Yeah, the grass gets lost too much. I just don't see the narrative of it, like why there's just a fence post here. We could maybe use smaller... No. Because most of these bushes are a lot darker, so they're not going to end up feeling like they should be in this fairly bright area. And this tree is going to block too many tiles from being seen. Although this one is a lot brighter, so it would make sense to be kind of more in a clearing area. Okay, well then maybe what the problem here is that these shouldn't be along the edge, because we still don't know what's beyond here. We can't see, but there could be more trees back there, so it's like slightly confusing. Maybe these are supposed to be darker kind of bushes. That's too dark, I think. Like that. But then maybe here in the middle is where we want to have some of these brighter ones. Yeah? Maybe that's the way to make them work, is instead of trying to put a bunch of them together, we just put one or two around the center. Oh, that's an interesting idea. What if we cut the map in half? A little bit here. Is this where the round one finally fits? If we add the round one as a custom prop, then we can actually raise its height a little bit. Maybe not that much. And we also can control it to be more offset so it's not directly in this like line with the other tree. In fact, maybe this one shouldn't be center either. That was a 96 round. Let's make that a 96 round here. But pull it more this way. And then this one can have a bit more grass, because there's so much going on here. Could even be a back option, as long as it's not overlapping. It's not. Oh, that's not the one I'm looking for though. I want one of these. That is between all of that. But I feel like it's just too far to the right now. Well, that's fine. Then we could just add some more central ones too. Okay. And then if we bring this one a little closer, clear this one. Not sure what I'm looking for here. No, I don't think it's that. Something to break up these two pieces. Wait, is that it? I think the idea might be here that this is a area that's been kind of locked away. We're gonna need to add it as a custom prop. Fence, back, left wall, back to custom, pull it back a little bit. No, it's gonna be too invisible here. I'm gonna leave it as a custom prop. We'll leave it at -4. And then here, we'll just change this one up to be something a bit smaller. Maybe back to some scrubs. And then this one can... I'm not entirely sure that we are live anymore. Looks like we might still be live. Oh no, there we are. Connection looks like it failed for a moment. We're back to normal. Odd. We are kind of at time now, and I've just been very mellow tone, kind of laying out some different pieces. Well, that was a weird noise. Okay. Audio kind of broke for a second. I think we'll probably call it here. I'm going to keep working away on this, but the stream's acting up a little bit, so if I can get an outro, I'll try. We'll be back, I don't know, maybe tomorrow evening, honestly, depending on how schedules and stuff go, but I might be back tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely Saturday, Sunday next week. Discord, as always, is a good place to keep an eye on stuff. Yeah. But I'm not entirely sure what the schedule is going to be. It's going to be a lot less than it was. Like, we did 5 streams this week. Probably going to drop down to the weekends and maybe 1 throughout the week. So 3. If nothing else, the streaming part of this, which I had not addressed, has been a fantastic way of keeping myself motivated. Anyways, hopefully the stream's still running. If it's not, well, I'm talking to myself. But regardless, I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. I'll be back at some point. Check Discords. We're just going to keep working towards the demo. We didn't hit it today, but we will hit it, I think, relatively soon. Just really depends on how much content we want to put into it. For now, though, it's going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.